The Julius Randle era in New York has officially come to an end, and I'm here to break it all down. All of that and much more on the Knicks Digest. Now, by me smiling, it actually doesn't mean that I'm happy that Julius Randle is not on the New York Knicks anymore. Now, many of you know, I don't have to say it again, but just to intro the video, the Knicks have traded for Karl Anthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we gave up Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick for Karl Anthony Towns. Now listen, I have a lot of thoughts. I'm going to take a minute to collect my thoughts so I can eloquently tell you guys how I'm feeling and what I want to say. First and foremost, why? Why did this trade happen? The first point I want to talk about Mitchell Robinson. So, Mitchell Robinson, as of late, it's actually being said that Mitchell Robinson could be out for a lot longer. So, with that bit of information, if Mitchell Robinson is going to be out for an extended period of time, longer than us New York Knicks fans expected, we don't have a solid big man. So, Leon Rose, World Wide Wes, what they did, they put their brains together and they offered a trade package to get one of the top 5 big men in the league. Okay, so that's one reason why we went out and traded for Karl Anthony Towns. And if we're looking at it from that perspective only, I understand why they made that trade. Point number 2, why did they trade for Karl Anthony Towns? And the second point I want to point to is Donte DiVincenzo. As of late, news has been circling around saying how Donte DiVincenzo was actually not happy with his role with this upcoming season. In this upcoming season, Donte DiVincenzo was going to be coming off the bench. He was more than likely going to be the 6th man coming off the bench. Compared to last season, Donte DiVincenzo was in the starting lineup. Donte DiVincenzo was put in positions where he had to carry us, and he did so. So for any NBA player, having a little bit of that green light and then being reverted back to the bench, I understand why Donte DiVincenzo was not happy with that. So with the front office knowing that Donte DiVincenzo was not going to be happy with his role, they decided to pull the trigger on the trade. And the crazy part of all of this is last week when I put up that video talking about Bill Simmons and Gilbert Arenas, what they were talking about, they were saying how Josh Hart and Donte DiVincenzo coming off the bench could be a huge problem down the pipeline for the Knicks in this upcoming season. Now, in that video, I said how Bill Simmons and Gilbert Arenas are annoying because they're always talking about it from the perspective of an NBA player's ego. And I went on to say, why are a lot of the storylines coming from the NBA talking head shows, First Take, or all these different podcasts, why do they try and talk about it from the perspective of an ego? What happened to teamwork? What happened to sacrificing to make sure that the team succeeds? And now I have to come on here on camera and bite the bullet because what I didn't want to happen is happening. So Bill Simmons and Gilbert Arenas were actually right. Donte DiVincenzo was not happy with his role in this upcoming season, and he actually wanted to be traded. So Leon Rose and World Wide Wes, they pulled the trigger, and now we got Karl Anthony Towns. Okay, so now that I got that out of the way, the 2 main reasons why we actually pulled the trigger for the Karl Anthony Towns trade. Now let me give you my feelings about Karl Anthony Towns being on the New York Knicks and us having to give up Julius Randle. As many of you know, I've been a big critiquer of Julius Randle's game. I wasn't a big fan of his. I think he is a smaller version of a reincarnated Carmelo Anthony. And what did I mean by that? I meant that Julius Randle was a ball stopper. The ball would be moving, swing. Julius Randle would get the ball, and it would take him some time to make a decision. If he was going to pass, if he was going to shoot, or if he was going to put the ball on the floor and attack the rim. And that was Melo's one downfall in his game. And that, air quotes, MVP season he had where they went to the second round against the Indiana Pacers and we lost in 6 games, Melo, I think, was in top 3 of MVP voting that year. Melo's decision-making was quick. And Julius Randle, little by little, you can see him starting to make quicker decisions whenever he got the ball. Especially after the OG Anunoby trade and before his shoulder injury, Julius Randle, Brunson, and OG Anunoby, their record was 14-3, 15-2, somewhere around there. And just the chemistry, the ball movement, the body movement, everything was looking chef's kiss. But I'm a little weary of this trade. Karl Anthony Towns, for the last few seasons, has been a disappointing NBA player. Let's take a look at some of his downfalls. One of Karl Anthony Towns' downfalls is his basketball IQ. The perfect example I can point to is, I think it was 2 seasons ago in the first round of the playoffs where they faced off against the Memphis Grizzlies and it went 7. Karl Anthony Towns, time and time again, he was in foul trouble. And on top of that, when he was in foul trouble, his basketball IQ, it just went away from him. He would put the ball on the floor with his head down, attacking the paint, not being aware of his surroundings, not being aware that somebody's going to be there taking the charge, committing silly turnovers. And before Anthony Edwards really took that ascension, Karl Anthony Towns was the best player of that team, of that organization. And Karl Anthony Towns, for the longest, he was in the conversation for being the best big in the league. And maybe in like his second or third year, there was a survey going around the NBA with all these different GMs talking about who's the one player that you would want to start a franchise with. And Karl Anthony Towns at one point was the #1 player on that GM survey. And ever since then, slowly but surely, we've been seeing him, when he's put in the limelight, with him being the best player of a team or organization, he doesn't come up. He doesn't come up big. Now, Karl Anthony Towns, the one thing that might be his saving grace is he might be better suited for that #2 slot. And coming to the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson is the best player on the team. So Karl Anthony Towns is going to be right behind him in that #2 spot. So he's not going to have as much pressure as he had with the Minnesota Timberwolves before Anthony Edwards' ascension. Now that I talked about the basketball IQ, the next point that I want to talk about his offense. Karl Anthony Towns, he relies on the three-point shot way too much. I can point to a lot of examples where he's not taking advantage of his mismatch. Karl Anthony Towns has an advantage. He should be in the post, punishing little dudes, but what he likes to do, he likes to stand behind the three-point line. And I want to take a look at that Western Conference Finals series against the Dallas Mavericks where they lost in 5 games. So in the 5 games, Karl Anthony Towns averaged 19.6 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 2.2 assists. Now, if we take a look at each game individually, let's take a look at the first 3 games. 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 6 field goals made on 20 field goals attempted. 3-pointers, 2 3-pointers made on 9 3-pointers attempted, which equates to 22.2%. Free throws, 2 free throws made out of 2 free throws attempted. 2 free throws made out of 2 free throws attempted. What that tells me is Karl Anthony Towns is not being aggressive. He needs to put his ass down in the post, take advantage of all of these small guys guarding him whenever they create the switch. And if he's not on the post and he's on the 3-point line, pump fake, go to the line, and get the refs to call a foul. Game number 2, we go from 16 points from game 1, we go to 15 points in game 2. 15, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 4 field goals made on 16 field goals attempted, which equates to 25%. 3-pointers, 1 3-pointer made on 5 3-point attempts, which equates to 20%. The second game, his free throw attempts did go up, so he made 6 free throws on 7 free throw attempts, which equates to 85.7%. Game number 3, 14 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, no steals. 5 of 18 from the floor, which is 27.8%. 0 of 8 3-pointers made. 4 of 5 from free throws, which 80%. The first 3 games is a clear indication of when Karl Anthony Towns is put in a position to excel, when Karl Anthony Towns is put in a position where his team needs him, where they are depending on him. He hasn't shown up. That first round against the Memphis Grizzlies, which was 2-3 seasons ago, Karl Anthony Towns already had the experience. He went to the playoffs going against Houston when Coach Tibbs was the coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they lost in the first round. I think it was in 5 games. Karl Anthony Towns had the experience over that Memphis Grizzlies team, where it was John Morant, Desmond Bane, Dillon Brooks. It was their first time collectively being in the playoffs together. And Memphis Grizzlies actually went on to the second round and played the Los Angeles Lakers, where they lost in 6 games, I believe. Karl Anthony Towns had that experience, and at that point of his career, at that point of Anthony Edwards' career, Karl Anthony Towns was still the better player because Anthony Edwards has not taken that ascension yet. And Karl Anthony Towns came up empty. These are the little things that I'm looking at with Karl Anthony Towns. These are the little things that I'm looking at throughout his career. How are you going to respond when you're put in a position to actually lead a team? How are you going to respond when the team is actually depending on you to come up big, to make really big plays, to further along the progress of the team and the organization? Karl Anthony Towns has not done that. Karl Anthony Towns actually has failed. But again, coming to the Knicks, he's in the number 2 spot behind Jalen Brunson, which might be his only saving grace. But going back to the games against Dallas, now we're looking at Game 4. Game 4 and 5, he definitely had better games. Game 4, he had 25 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, shot 9 of 13 from the field, which equates to 69%, 4 of 5 from three-point land, which equates to 80%, 3 of 3 from the free throw line. Game 5, 28 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 9 of 20 from the field, 45%, 1 of 6 from three-point line, which is 16.7%, 9 of 10 from free throw line, which is 90%. So the last 2 games, 25 and 28 points. The first 3 games, 16, 15, 14. This is what I'm talking about with Karl Anthony Towns, man. This is why I'm a little weary of the trade. Now, going back to Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo, I'm upset. I'm very upset. Going into this season, I was willing to give Julius Randle a completely clean slate. I wanted to give Julius Randle the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give Julius Randle an entire season to show me that he is a winning player, which I 100% believe that if Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo stayed on this team and we did not trade for Karl Anthony Towns, I hate to say it, but I think we actually would have had a better season. I'm weary of this Karl Anthony Towns trade, man. I'm very weary. It does check off a box as far as the big man questions that we have. At the beginning of this video, I already went over the Mitchell Robinson problem that we have, and having Karl Anthony Towns to take over that 5-man spot for the time being because he likes to play the power forward position is a good thing. It's a great thing, but not at the expense of Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo. Now, going into this season, the Nova Knicks, I was hella excited. The connection of the Villanova Knicks, Brunson, Mikal, Josh Hart, Donte DiVincenzo, with the integration of Julius Randle, I think that was going to be something special. And the re-signing of OG Anunoby coming back healthy, Josh Hart coming off the bench, Mitchell Robinson, whenever he was going to come back, it was going to be a special season. And now I go from being a confident Knicks fan to going back to I'm a little weary. And this is why I hate being a Knicks fan, man. Because they have me wholeheartedly, and then something always happens where I have to take a step back because I don't want to get my heart broken. That's what happened to me with the 90s Knicks time and time again. We would make deep playoff runs, but it would be Michael Jordan, but it would be the Miami Heat, but it would be Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers. It'll be Patrick Ewing missing a layup. It'll always be something as to we're almost there. We're almost there. And then something happens where somebody or something pulls the rug out underneath me. And that's exactly the feeling I have with this trade. Going into the season, I was super optimistic. I really felt like we had barring injury, barring any coaching firings, anything crazy, I really think we had a really good chance of contending with the Boston Celtics. Now that I'm basically having a stream of consciousness, one positive that I can take out of this trade is Karl Anthony Towns is going to be able to have a full training camp with this team. And you hear time and time again that, like the Damian Lillard situation, Damian Lillard got traded and there was that whole, like, he wasn't in shape. Doc Rivers said on the podcast, I believe with Bill Simmons, if you want to believe it or not, but Doc Rivers said that Damian Lillard wasn't in shape because he was worried about getting injured. And then that had an effect on him in training camp for the rest of the season. Karl Anthony Towns is going to have a full training camp. He's going to be able to get acquainted with Brunson, Mikal, Josh Hart. He's going to be able to get acquainted with the rest of the team, OG Anunoby, the coaches, obviously, even though there's already a history with him and Tibbs. So that excuse, I'm not so sure that we can have that conversation at the end of the season if the Knicks have a disappointing season. But listen, man, so many feelings, so many thoughts, so many emotions, and I just wanted to come on here and talk about it, give you my 2 cents on this trade. And for now, that's enough. I have so much more to get into. I'll put out another video soon talking about now what does this cat integration actually look like? What is the offense looking like? So be sure to look out for that one. But until next time, guys, I can't even give you my traditional signing off. I can't give you the whole Brunson, Taj Gibson, because I'm sad, man. So for now, I just want to say thank you so much for checking out this video. Make sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the Knicks Digest channel, and I'll check you on the next video. Peace.